everyone. Today we will be covering what is test-driven development. So my name is Vikas Kearney. I have been in IT industry more than 20 years. I am a architect. I am TOGAF certified architect. I got exposure to test-driven development very early and I was hooked into it. So what we'll be covering today, we'll be talking about test-driven development. What are the benefits? What are the unit tests? We will quickly talk about dependency injection, and mocking is a very important concept in test driven development. So there are unit tests, there are integration tests. We'll talk about what the differences between unit tests and integration tests. Also, we quickly will look into the website testing using Selenium framework. It's an amazing framework. If you're a C# developer and you want to test websites, it gives you very easy C# framework to do it. And finally, the bonus is architecture test. A lot of you must have heard about unit test, integration test, and in the final leg, we'll talk about architecture test. So before we go, uh, if before I talk about test-driven development benefits, is there any case studies which tells you what are the benefits of test-driven development? Test-driven development is a methodology where you write the test first, failing test first, then you write the code. So Microsoft did a study. It created it created 4 teams. 3 teams were created from Microsoft, and 1 team was uh, built from IBM. And they after they implemented test-driven development, and these were the key findings. They found the defects reduced between 40% to 90% comparative to other projects which did not use test-driven development. We can see what a big quality difference. And was there a cost? Yes, there was a cost. The teams took 15 to 35% more time in initial development. They have to learn the test-driven development. They have to learn the tools, how to do it. So there was some lag in, there is some cost investment in starting. So Aditya, anywhere you have question, feel free to ask.
Okay, sure.
So what are the benefits of test-driven development? Like first big benefit is it increases certainty. So what test-driven development is, when you write automated tests, it gives you a regression test in free. So regression test suite in free. A lot of time, when I used to write code, I used to write code very fast. And in the process, I used to create some silly bugs. And basically, when your code has a lot of problem, there's the uncertainty that when it will go to production. So when you use test-driven development, automated unit tests, you are getting feedback from the system very quickly. And by the time you move to QA, the chances are very few issues will be found, and there are more chances you are going to meet the production date. Second benefit is high quality software. First time when I remember I used test-driven development, I was writing a web service. And since I was writing a web service, I was able to do a write test for 100% code coverage. Because when testing automated unit testing became very popular, it was very tedious to test interfaces. If you that time web forms were popular, web uh, forms were popular. So if the UI testing UI was very complex, and it's still very complex, you have to think about session issues, a lot of how a lot of things. They were not automated unit test friendly. Those technologies, the user interface technologies. So I moved my code in the test, and the QA person was stressed. Like for 2 3 days, the QA person was not able to find any bugs, and so it's a great companion, especially if you are a person who like to do things fast, and uh, you don't have patience to test all the existing functionality. So automated test gives you that in free. Increases confidence, as I said, like when you know your code is working, you have not broken anything. A lot of time, what happens, it's not we don't do regression testing, it's we underestimate the impact analysis. We think our changes is impacting in certain area, but actually a lot of time it could impact certain areas which we never thought. So it covers our back. It makes sure that it tests all those scenarios which we cannot find it during our impact analysis. Documentation. A lot of time when I go to a project, I am given a documentation, and generally documentation is very old, nobody has updated, and it doesn't make sense. So if you have written some web APIs, RESTful APIs, test automated test is the best way to show people how to use your APIs, what kind of payload should be given, what kind of payload is expecting, and if unit test is passing, the chances is your code is working. Better design. So this is very important thing. A lot of time we write the code when we design our objects. We don't know the complete picture. We just write some classes, and over the time we gain more knowledge, and we understand more system. We want to redesign our classes, we want to redesign our uh, our s- our software. A lot of time the best design patterns implemented were during refactoring. When I went back to the code, I have to make changes, I could see big picture. So automated unit tests make sure that if you make some changes, the code is still working. I remember I was working on a legacy applications, and this application has become huge. A lot of people were afraid to make any changes. They did not know what they are going to break. So if like last time I covered discussed object oriented programming in details, and in that workshop we discussed great object designs models. They evolve over the time. So iterative agile development, I think in agile development every 2 weeks we are pushing stuff to test or maybe production. So it's very important for agile development, iterative development to be successful. We have to write automated unit tests. A lot of time whenever we are talking about test, we are talking about automated test, whether it's the integration test, whether acceptance test. If it is not automated, we'll categorize them as manual testing. So we'll be using C.NET Core 8.0, ASP.NET Core, Microsoft Dependency Injection. The testing framework, we are going to use XUnit. Mock, we will be using for mocking. So what is test-driven development? Test-driven development, as I discussed, you first write the failing test, then you write the code, and then you make it pass, and then you refactor the code. You make the changes to make it design better, and that could fail the test, and you go through the loop. So that is test-driven development. A lot of people ask whether test-driven development and automated unit tests are same. The answer is no. In test-driven development, you write the test first. It's a methodology. Automated unit test is you write the code and then you write your unit test. That is not test-driven development. There is a subtle difference. So we'll be doing hands-on exercise later. So this is how generally the architecture of any ASP.NET website should be. You are using layered architecture. Your website talks to controllers. Controllers talk to service layer. In our demo, we'll not use service layer to reduce the complexity. So service layer talks to the data layer, and all these are have reference to the domain, and finally the databases. So what is a unit test? Unit test is like if you are testing controllers, you're just testing the controllers. You are not worried about the data layer, service layer. So you mock that service layer. I'll talk a little bit later about mocking. We'll do hands-on exercise. So what is integration test? Integration test is I have a definition later. Basically, integration test when you write on controllers, you are testing the whole layers. You are testing the service layer, data layer, databases. So you're testing the whole thing.
So I have one small question here.
Sure.
So here domain controller is communicating to domain, service layer also communicating domain, data layer also communicating domain. So a domain is this object or real
Yes.
object?
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of calling model, initially I put it as domain, but in the code example, I ended up using domain.
Model.
Sorry, model.
Okay, thank you.
One thing. Let me bring up our video. Okay. So test-driven development, when you say you have write automated tests, the question will be asked, what is the code coverage? Code coverage is how much your unit test, how much they are covering the code. So like, for example, let's say you have two controllers and we have written unit tests only for imply controllers. So the code coverage is 50%. So that's how you come to know how extensive your code are. A lot of question is like how much code coverage should be there. There are some people say 100%. My personal opinion is 100% is too big number. So code coverage means when you write automated unit tests, it's very easy to hit like 80% and 90%. When it comes very some complex scenario, they are very difficult. Yeah. So you should not be spending too much time on writing tests, but you should be spending more time on writing your code. But you have to find your sweet spot where the effort writing unit test becomes too much. You have to find out. So another question is a lot of time I talk about automated unit test, and a lot of people ask me, what if I wrote a wrong test? So are we doomed? So the answer is not. So test-driven development, when you are writing automated unit test, is a process, is a workflow. So first, developer, he got the requirement from the business, and so you both agreed how to test the functionality. So this is important. Like sometime I got a requirement from business user, and he said, because you have to write some code within 3 hours, it will go into production. So you have to get the data from a data provider. So sometimes they give you real data, sometimes they give you fake data. So I said like, okay, I'll write the code and move the production. How are you going to test it? That it's a fake data or real data? And so that's very important. When you write get the requirement, you figure out how to test it. And then there's the integration test. Integration test, you are testing the whole workflow. And then acceptance test. Acceptance test will cover in next one, automated acceptance test, how you can use spec flow to write automated acceptance test. Will not cover in today's session. And finally, your system is gone into production. So you can see there are multiple checks where you are checking whether the code is working properly or not. And even if it goes through production and bug is reported, what you should do is you should check your unit test, integration test, and acceptance test. Why this bug went through into the production? Are there gaps in your test suite? So if there are gaps, you need to fill the gaps. So that's how your automated test suite becomes complete, comprehensive, meaningful. So it's a process you have to follow. Just your code move to production doesn't mean you have stopped writing the test. Any question here, Aditya?
No, not. So integration test here, like the workflow, like
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Stay.
okay,
So dependency injection, we discussed the dependency injection before also in some other workshops. Like most of our workshops, we talk about dependency injection, whether ASP.NET Core or data object. So in this workshop also, we'll quickly, what is the dependency injection is, if you're like, we'll see in this, our controllers, they are talking to interface. The benefit of coding to the interface is uh, you can you can change the implementation. We'll see how we will use mock for our unit testing, and how we'll use the real objects for the real scenarios. So that's the dependency injection is your object is if it is dependent on some other object, it should not create itself. Someone else should, there's a dependency injection container should provide. So in this our example, we'll use dependency injection also again. That is very important for unit testing. So that's why a lot of people ask you about dependency injection. And if you have written some mock or automated unit test, chances are you have used dependency injection. So what is mocking? So mocking is like, if you have a business object, it needs to get some data from third party service, or it may be getting some big data from database, or it may be listening to some message queue. So the problem with in this scenario is that first thing, they could be very slow, the service layer, message queue, or database. And so basically, like, let's say you say this service could be down. So you don't want to be stop your coding. So that's the why mocking comes into picture. So you have to make sure you are using interface between these one, so that you can continue your development. In our hands-on exercise, we'll look more deeper into mocking. So mocking is like you mock a object which is difficult to create. It may be it may be getting data from a third-party web service, or it's a huge database operation, or from a message queue. Any question on mocking? I'll be talking more implementation later.
okay, sir.
So hands-on. Before I go to hands-on exercise, uh, integration test. What is difference between unit test and integration test? So this
Yes,
has been a very big debate, like in test-driven development community, and there was a time where like it was a war. A lot of people thought your unit test should not hit the databases, and other people thought it should hit the databases. And so there has been a lot of confusion. So some people, I follow Uncle Bob from Clean Architecture. He says Integration tests are tests which take time. So what is our integration test? Integration test, there are some common things which is different from unit test is integration test focus on interactions. What it means is when I'm testing my controller, not only in integration test, not only I'm testing my controllers, I am testing my data layer also, whether the database is technology also, whether the data is getting stored in databases or not. So it's a generally higher level than unit test. So basically, most of the time integration test you will start from either web API or web interface. We'll see how you can test your web interface. And it's a more realistic environment, means you are really hitting the third party services, you are really hitting the database, and a broad coverage as we saw in the controllers. If you have two controllers and you have written test for one controller, you have 50% code coverage. So let's start our hands-on exercise. I have a video of the exercise. I did fast forward twice because it was very slow. So I'm going to create a ASP.NET web app application. It's a MVC application. So I don't like that all the controllers and models are within the web app because that reduces testability. So I generally what I do, I make sure that I move controllers to into different class library, also model to a different project, so that other applications can also reuse. If you are using some other web API, you can use this controllers different level. And it's easy to write test, automated test, unit test also. Y- So I have created another project called controllers and moved all controllers there. So now I'm moving models to a different domain, models, different business subjects. So a lot of people use that interchangeably. So here my controller, since I moved to different class solution, ASP.NET MVC reference is missing. So here I'm going to add ASP.NET Core MVC. So I'm adding my package ASP.NET MVC code to controllers library, class library. So some references problem. I have to make sure that controllers have access to models. So error view model also I have moved to model. So first I'm just setting up the project. I'm going to add some employee page and I'm cleaning up my solution, making it more test friendly. I'm just setting up a breakpoint. So seeing, so I'm adding a employee class, uh, employee model. So all my tests will be against this employee model. Code Pilot, I have installed Code Pilot on my machine. It suggesting some tips. I I have another project where I'm going to copy the employee class here.
But Pilot will do some magic.
So it has four property: ID, name, position, salary. So I was searching for controllers. Somehow class library doesn't recognize controllers. So I'm just gonna rename it employee controller. So employee controller. Uh, I was Aditya, when I was doing it, I was struggling why view is giving error. Actually, I'm not inheriting from the controller. Now I know. When I was coding, I was struggling there.
This type of issue sometimes we face. One single mistake I did some time back. I created one interface, but
Hmm.
actually it was created as a class, and
Okay, 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 okay.
and I was trying to inherit it, and that was not happening.
See, I'm trying to figure out why view is giving error. And actually, I'm not inheriting because I was thinking I have given the reference, everything I have given. Uh,
Yes.
and I was getting some errors in the view, razor view also. And it's very unfriendly. If I double click, it doesn't take me to the view at all. So I'm making sure that error view model is inside the TD workshop dot models namespace. And actually, again, I'm looking there. So I have to give full reference to that one. So I removed it and error view model. Okay. So I'm finding everywhere in the code, in the project. That's all, like in the error, it doesn't tell me. And so like I'm missing the full namespace. I was wondering that time, like what's happening? Do I have the reference to the classes? I do have reference since I changed the name to tdworkshop.models. So it's giving me old namespace. Okay, old namespace. I have two classes under different namespaces. I unified the model namespace. Then I'm trying to double click and go to the page. Okay, I copied the namespace. Now I'm looking for where the page is. I'm checking the each page individually to find out. Oh, I missed. Okay, now I see it. And okay, I'm adding the right reference. This is the layout hash page. This look good. This look good. Error. Error has. So I should be. No, it should compile. Yeah, I know. This I unified. Oh, finally it compiled. More than testing, I was spending time to set up the project. I'm running it. I did cut some part. I'm running it twice speed. It was taking more than 40 minutes. I did speed up double X. I have the code, but if you have any question, we can talk about the code. Quickly check. Nobody else is waiting. Anyway. Okay. In the meeting. Okay, did I? Oh, yeah, okay. I put the controller finally on employee controller. So now I am adding the data library. Generally, I like my controller to talk a service controller, uh, service layer. But for this, keeping it simple, I just kept the data layer, I'm calling it data service. So this data service is going to talk to a table called employee. I created in MySQL. So this I'm creating the employee data layer. Basically, it's going to talk to the table. I'm copying all the code. It just delete, update, typical CRUD operation: create, replace, update, delete. So this is AppDB contest class I'm creating. It also I have to spend some time how to connect, make sure entity frameworks connect
Give me
to
context.
MySQL. I'm gonna comment the code because I need to add the packages for our entity framework. So let me, before I write further code, let me add the entity framework package. So I have to add the 8.0 because I was using some MySQL package which is supporting only 8 entity framework. So entity framework design I added to my project. So this Pomelo entry framework for MySQL, I have to install it. I used MySQL for the demo. Generally in Office, I don't use MySQL.
Okay. For SQL, we don't need to use any, I think, this NuGet package. We can directly use.
SQL. So in the web app also I'm going to add because I will be adding a dependency for this app DB database. So here is the DB contest for MySQL. Let me uncomment this code. So basically data layer is just a CRUD operation. And let's create the interface. As we said, dependency injection, you have to have an interface. So we created an interface for our database operation. So here now we are going to add some uh, for dependency injection to know which interface is calling which concrete class. So we need to add here. So I data service. I'm creating at add transient. So we did discuss in our ASP Internet workshop. So also I'm adding the dependency for the entity framework DB contest here. So connection string, I missed adding connection string at this point to my configuration file. So I'm adding the view for employee so that I can run the whole code. So I'm generating the code based on the model, adding a erasure view, calling it index. Since there's a compile error, it would not let me do. So I tried to figure out 2-3 times before, okay, I mean, it has to compile before it would uh, generate the code. I tried renaming. Okay, I thought, oh, it doesn't like. Maybe it doesn't like the index name. And then I think now I figured it out, and that I need to fix the error. I think it was missing a namespace. Yeah, I used the suggestion feature from the Visual Studio. Okay, now another attempt to create a employee list page. So here's the employee list page is created. So I spent a lot of time to show you the workflow, the flow, how I am going to controllers, from controllers to the data layer. Data layer is connected to the database to get me all the data. So in the menu, I'm adding employee option. Employee controller. Now I'm going to add the uh, all the I have code for employee controller in another place. So just I'm adding the all the code from there. So in the constructor is taking the data layer interface for dependency injection. So our ASP.NET containers, we registered it in the programs. It knows for this interface what is the concrete classes need to inject into this class. So quickly I want to show you that I have created the employee table which has 3 classes. So it's interesting. Just notice what it's returning. So I'm going to view
Okay.
and employees. So it hit the breakpoint. It blew up on me this time because I have not set up the connection string. So here I'm going setting up the connection string. I'll copy the connection string. So see, John Doe, Jane Smith, and Alice. These are the 3 people are in the database. So let me step into. Okay, I went, got 3 records, and they are returning to the view. Elias, John, Jane. So let's add so whole our application is added. Now let's add unit test. As we talked, we are using XUnit framework from Microsoft. So whatever test you start, it has to be decorated with the fact attribute. So I'm naming my class as employee controller unit test. So I have to make sure that I have the right references. Mock we need for mocking. Now you're gonna see the mocking in real action. So in the unit test, I installed the mock framework. References. I'm auto correcting the references. So here is I'm mocking the employee data layer, and I am giving him, instead of John, I'm giving him Vikas. You saw there was no class name person like Vikas. So I'm mocking the interface, and it is going to return. I'm saying give me Vikas, and it's going to return me Vikas. So this way I can test the controller without worrying about the data layer. So here you go. the test passed. Let it run through. Let me show you the integration test now. So another generally I like to add for unit test. I like to have a different library, and for integration for different. So let's create another test uh, class library test project, and we'll call it integration test. So here today I learned there's a very beautiful entity frameworks gives you in-memory database option. So basically, it doesn't write actually anything into the database. Um, it doesn't write anything into the database, but it creates the database in the memory. So this is very good for writing unit test. So for that, to use entity framework in memory, we have in our integration test, we are adding in-memory database. So all the database operations we will be testing in the memory. Nothing will be written into the database.
Can we use the same approach in our
What's that?
company? Can we use this in-memory concept in real-time project also for integration test?
For integration test, right?
Yes.
I think it's an awesome thing. Definitely. If like a lot of time we are using other microservices. Let finish this. So here I'm using the database. You can see, and the service adding to the database. So it's adding everything. Alice is being added to the. It's not being added as new to the database. It's happening in the memory, and it's testing the controller, making sure data layer is also tested. So that concludes our testing. So in the mocking you saw, we just tested controller, not the data layer. Whereas in integration test, we not only just tested the controller, we also tested the data layer also. Uh, make sense? Make sense? Like if
Yes. So I have few questions.
you go ahead.
So like at our side we discussed that this integration test you have explained via coding and written some test here.
Oh, your voice is not coming a little bit.
Now my voice is clear, audio is clear. Is
Little
it
bit.
clear?
Go ahead, ask. Yes.
Okay, so here integration test we are
Mm-hmm.
writing, we created one project and wrote a script.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we generally talk that integration test is as a manual testing. So, but I
No, no,
see
no.
here different.
It's a automated integration test. It's not a manual test. Oh, that's what I said. All our testing is automated here. That's a lot of people don't know. I think a lot of people don't know that you can write automated uh, unit test. You can write automated integration test. You can also write automated acceptance test. Today I didn't get time to fit in. I'll maybe we'll have one more part where we'll talk about automated unit testing. I think that I'm very passionate about that. That's a very amazing concept. So
Yes.
because this test only programmer can understand.
Ah, yes,
Whereas the
yes.
automated acceptance test, they are in kind of plain English, Gherkin language we use, which non-technical people can also understand. So that's how you're having more conversation with other stakeholders. You cannot show unit tests to the business people, or if QA is not that technical, you cannot show him.
Right. And this entire activity is done by developer and understood by developer only.
only,
QA cannot understand this process.
unless he is technical.
Restrictive. Yeah, unless it's technical, bit technical.
Okay. Any question? Any other question?
Not okay.
So let me go back to this hands. We'll, uh, Selenium. Selenium is an open source tool for automating web browser actions. It's widely used for testing web applications, allowing developers and testers to simulate user interactions with the web browser. Selenium supports multiple programming languages, browser, and operating system, making it a popular choice for automated testing. So let me give you the demo. So I'm going to create the Selenium project. So first I'm going to create a simple sample ESP.NET web site. So it's a regular web app. Just run it. It's a two-page app. So it's a two-page app. Like, okay, you home page, you click and you go to Microsoft documentation. So let's add our Selenium test now. So again, we're gonna create another test project using XUnit. I like sometime I'm creating project and solution in the same folder. This is so here is our simple test. So before we go further, we have to install packages. Let it rename the class home page tests. Hmm. So when link is clicked, Microsoft page is being displayed. So before go further, we have to install packages. So we have to install Selenium project packages. So Selenium WebDriver will be installing. And since we are using Chrome for our development, we also need Chrome driver. Let me copy the code. So this is how you write the C# code. You're telling driver navigate, go to this URL, which is our home site. I miss the using WebDriver. So here we are telling driver to go this our home page. Finally, we want driver to quit. We are giving timeout, implicit wait before timeout 10 seconds because everything website generally takes time. So this is how we are getting the link with by the text. So we get the link by the text and we are clicking the link and see what happens once the link is clicked. Page load, we're gonna wait for another page load for 10 seconds. And okay, then once that this is the URL we get after click, and this is the title of the document. I miss one closing curly brace. It was opening the web page in other monitor. That's I had a lot of problem. So another thing was you have to make sure that website should be running. Like it was blowing up on me because you have to make sure the website is running. And so then I'm running Control F5. Okay, website is running. Now let me run the test. This is website test. So it's went through, click the link and move the page to that one. The test passed. Close it. So this is the test. You go to click. So what is happening is let me run the app first. So this is Aditya, this is default ASP.NET website.
Yes.
So basically what I'm telling test, okay, go to this home page and find this link by this text and click it it should go to this page, and the title of the page should be this one.
Okay.
So let me go back to home and now run the test. It opens up the another window. So it happened very quickly. So
Yes.
it opens the browser, clicks the link, and runs successfully. Let
So
me tell you, it's not, it's a real test, not fake. Let me fail it now.
okay.
Let's run.
Start.
It failed
It.
because I changed the. So like this is a, I think this is a great framework. Like especially means if your website is written with Angular, React, and if you're not means if you're not comfortable with the testing framework with which are geared too much Jasmine kind of which are geared towards Angular and React, so you can use this Selenium to do your testing, and it's great for automated acceptance test. Any question, Aditya?
I have heard about Selenium test framework, but so could you please explain a bit more what like you explained here? So Selenium is used for web UI testing purpose
Yes, mainly that
mainly. Okay.
is very popular among QA. So I think the beauty from a C sharp developer is like all the code you're writing in C sharp, you know,
Yes.
you're getting the link item, driver find, click, and this happens. So it's very intuitive to us, right?
Right.
I think so. All for you, me, the beauty is here, right?
Exactly. So by writing this Selenium test in C sharp, we can skip the testing section from Angular UI project.
In English means you means if you are working on Angular, you should be comfortable with their test framework. But just in case, like this means this is second best solution. The first best solution, yeah, be comfortable with their framework. Second best
Yes,
solution is
yes,
like especially means so a lot of QA people, they may know C sharp, they may not know Angular.
yes.
So
Great.
okay. So architecture test. An architecture test is an automated test that enables your application to verify the structure and design of your code. So architecture test. Let me run the demo now. I think this one, I it's a lot of this has a lot of potential, but I am also new to it. So let me show you architecture, automated architecture test. So like I took example of dependency injection. Dependency injection, we said, is very important. Your solution should have all unit testing, mocking, everything is base. That is the foundation of everything. But if you are architect, how do you know some people have, there are 20 applications and that 20 applications are implementing dependency injection. So in this case, we can use this automated architecture test to verify that application is meeting all the policies, all the good practices which architects team has set up. So let me again create a solution. So I'm adding a test project, XUnit test. I jumped a, this is service solution. Let's call this is authorization service we are using. So here I added the XUnit test project. It need to have references to the services. So in our test, now we have to install the package for writing our architecture unit test. This is called, I think, net arc test. So net arc test dot rows. This is last time nobody was using. Now I see 4.13 million downloads have happened.
It
Wow.
has progressed.
Like I think I tested. I tried long time back, 2 3 years back. Then nobody was using that, and now oh, how many millions downloads? Wow, I'm impressed. I was shocked, like seeing so many downloads today. It's a more like I think it's more widespread test.
It's becoming popular these days for architect.
So here I'm writing a test that every class should implement an interface. So I'm making sure that dependency injection is being implemented. Like 5 10 years back, I was seeing whether in agile engineering services, we can run a report that projects are following some agile engineering practices. At that time, like I'm talking about 5 10 years back, there was no way this. I don't think this test architecture unit test existed then. So I was wondering how you can find out somebody has implemented interfaces or not. So I'm going since we have created service layer, we need interface to make sure that that classes are being exposed through the interface. By services. Renaming is that in authorization interface. So these are like I just kept it empty. We are testing the concept. Rename it. So that's interesting. You find the assembly names on the top. I need to add reference to the interface library. Okay, from the service assembly, I'm getting all the classes, which are classes public and not abstract. I have already written the code, so I'm copying over the code. This is for each class. This is, I'm expecting the interface would be, I hard coded here the namespace. Always good to copy and paste. Yeah. So each class I'm looking whether that class has a interface implemented interface with the same name, starts with I. So does this interface exist in I service assembly? It should not be non null. Missing it, closing a curly brace. Right now the test should fail because I have not implemented the interface. Yeah, it's blowing up because I have not implemented the interface. Interface exists in the library, but it's not implemented. Looks like I'm lost. So now I'm implementing the interface for the class. And I'm going to, yeah, adding interface reference to my service, real services. Fix the namespace and compile. Yeah, the test is passed because I am implementing the interface with the same name. So this is how we can find out dependency injection, and using this library, we can make sure that architecture level things are implemented. So any question on this one?
Sir. So like only dependency injection or any other rule also we can enforce in this architecture test.
Sure, sure. We can I have long back I evaluated on my website.
Okay.
If you go to my website, my YouTube channel, play content playlist, I have a TDD. So this workshop I'm going to add to my TDD playlist. Do check out my TDD playlist.
Okay, so I will check it.
Um, mm, Yeah, there's my TD playlist videos. So these are these are the some tests that time I used. Was it ArchUnitNet? Is it the same or no? It's a different one. ArchUnitNet. I think it's the same one. You can see, 2020 I did this test. Or
Yeah,
that time nobody was using. First time
almost
I
5 years back.
5 years back. So your business layer is not using data set, data table. It's not polluted by your business layer is not polluted by data layer.
Yes,
I did that dependency, mandatory interfaces, naming convention. What is a naming convention? Layer dependencies. So you means you have to be really creative. You can test everything. A lot of things you can test in the architecture. I mean, you in your architecture, you need to have these many layers. The classing names has to be in models. Every class should name have model. If you are forcing some people to implement some abstract class interface, so you can do a lot of beautiful things using this. So before I conclude, and let me go back to we did one thing I would say, if you have to sell TDD and you want to go through Microsoft TDD document. So this is here they talk about their 40 to 90% their bugs were less as compared to the TDD, and they took 15 to 35% more time during initial development time after adopting TDD, and they have very good in the it's a great document, and they have very good recommendations in the last days. A very good recommendation that start test driven development from the beginning of the project. And even though now the frameworks has advanced, technology has become very advanced, means most of the frameworks are very test driven development friendly, but still it's a highly recommended that you start TDD from the start.
yes,
For a team new to TDD, introduce automated build test integration towards the second or third of the development phase, but not too early, but not too late. So that is interesting. Means if you are doing some greenfield project, let some project be there before you implement the test driven development. So means that way you have some idea about the project and then start that TDD. So
okay,
convince the development team to add test time every time a problem is found. That's what we discussed. If you have a found a bug in the production, find out what is missing in what are the gaps in your test suite. Get the test team involved and knowledgeable about the TD approach. That means I have done test driven development with QA people. That's a great idea. Hold a thorough review of initial unit test plan. That's again great idea. Constantly run the unit tests in daily automated build. I highly agree that this can become the heartbeat of the system. So it's a early warning system. Somebody checked in bad code, something is failing. So it's a early warning. So that means it tells you the code quality of your in-source save. What is the code quality? Encourages fast test unit execution and efficient test design, unit test design. That's what test should fail fast. Share unit tests. Developer sharing their unit test. That's interesting. Track the project using measurement. Test cases, code coverage, as we discussed, what is code coverage? So you need to measure everything. Check the morale of the team at the beginning and end of the project. So means that's what how they are finding test driven development. They are not struck with testing too much. 100% code coverage, some scenarios can be difficult. So any question, Aditya? Will conclude our presentation, and I wanted to cover automated acceptance testing also, and performance testing. Maybe we'll do in part two. Part two will, or part will can have a part two where we'll have automated acceptance testing, BDD, behavioral driven test development, and then performance testing, and maybe have a case study. So
Okay,
thank you,
sure,
Aditya,
sir.
for joining. Thank you
Thank you,
for
sir,
joining.
for great
Good
session.
night.
Thank you. Bye, sir.